Welcome to the World Builders Anvil, episode 309, New Year's Holidays. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. Father Time as always. My name is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And bringing in the new, I am Michael Miller. Jeff, ask me what is new.
What is new, Michael?
My car, my health insurance, and probably my job.
So I guess your interview went well?
I had multiple interviews, and the one that I went on today, the other ones went well too. One of them went very well. One of them went okay. The one that I did today went very well, better than the other one that went very well. And I think I'm going to take it.
The one today is the one you'd prefer?
I think so. Well, the thing is, there's two that are both really good, and it's really two different paths. So one path would grant me the ability to work on skills that I have not really been able to work on in my career so far. The other one would grant me an insane amount of stability and more free time.
Oh, yeah, that's the kind that appealed to me.
I'm going for that one.
Yeah.
And the skills that I want to cultivate, I actually can go to school for. So
Awesome.
I think I'm actually going to go that road instead of doing the on the job thing. I think I'm going to go take the courses necessary. But a really good interview today.
Awesome.
Like good company. I like the owner.
Still in the electrical field?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, still in the same field.
Awesome. That
Also,
is very cool.
Also, it would have me driving to the very same place every day.
Oh, so no traveling on site all of the time.
Nope. It would be drive to this location and work at that location all the time.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, a big World Builders Anvil congratulations to Mike on.
I will take that congratulations, even though it is a little premature.
Premature.
I still need to lock it. I still need to lock it up, but I think it is.
My reputation. I like to be a little ahead of everyone else.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the congratulations. In other news, I also got a new Honda, well-used Honda.
Yes, I
because my transmission exploded.
Yeah, we've had an exciting here. We're actually recording right before the episode. We were going to record a whole bunch this week because he just got laid off from his other job, and literally, I've got really really sick, and I've been out since Monday, and today's Thursday, and I'm still sick, but I'm functional sick at this point. And Michael's car blew up on him.
Well, just the transmission.
That's good enough.
But you've got congratulations too. Can we talk about that?
No, let's not talk about that.
No, let's not talk about that. Okay. I think it's incredibly exciting and super congratulatory, but if you don't want to talk about it, we won't talk about
it. Not yet.
All right.
We'll have to talk about talking about that.
Top secret for the time being. I don't know why, but I'll let it happen. No, it's not a child.
Who follow that. But yes. So
New Year's.
It's a holiday, and we like to talk about holidays here. And I like to kind of look at holidays, and I've been mentoring a kid. Oh my goodness.
It's been a long time.
The same kid. I've been mentoring a kid since he was a sophomore in high school.
I was going to say, how old is he now? He's got to be like
21 at least. He might have just turned 22. He just turned 22.
And you still mentor him?
I still mentor him. Yeah, he's
Is he in college?
No, he's not. And
does he work?
He's trying to find work at the moment. So, but we talk about stuff and sort of help try and guide him through life a little bit. But more, it's like he has no male figures in his life, so I kind of got to act like that. So it's actually kind of fun.
You have to act like you're male.
Essentially, he lives out with his grandmother and mother at this point. So sometimes you just need a guy to hang out with. So,
so where do you fit in? Sorry.
That's fine. You
got to get the digs while I can.
I keep trying to tell you, don't make me smile because it actually physically hurts my mouth. So.
Oh, that's going to be very hard this episode.
I know, especially telling you that it hurts. That
well, I won't do it on purpose. Just
So, want to talk a bit today about holidays, a thing of which are very popular. And like I said, I actually learned from Isaiah, who does a public access show in Windsor here called the Isaiah Show, ironically. For all of those of you that want to watch, I'll throw in a link to the show notes to his public access TV show. But he did an episode on New Year's, and that's when I learned that New Year's was originally in the West on April 1st, and which isn't quite true, but it's largely true. And so New Year's was never centrally celebrated. It was sort of around the spring equinox. And this typically goes cross culture, most countries, right now you're like, wait, how we get to January 1st here? But literally, usually the New Year's is typically considered when spring starts. You could argue that winter is the end, it's the death, and spring is the rebirth, which is typically, I would guess, why most cultures celebrate a new year, usually in March, up to April. And so the story goes that in I think it was Pope Gregory, or I'm sure there's multiple Pope Gregories, actually put out a papal decree or one of those papal things, and he was a papist, I hear, and
he was big on the pape,
and he is actually the guy who moved it to January 1st. I think part of it was to get it away from where the pagans had celebrated it from, which the Romans, I believe, was originally in early March, which is where if you like look at the name of our months, you start like December is the 10th month, November is the 9th month in Latin, and that's because of where New Year's originally was. I don't know if they actually celebrated it on the 1st. I know there was a festival on the 25th that they did celebrate for the equinox, but typically March was considered the beginning of the new year in the Roman calendar, but it kind of shifted later. There was a feast around equinox that was where most of the Catholics celebrated right around that feast day. And so, but when the Pope moves it back, a lot of the nobility starts supposedly making fun of the provincials who don't seem to know that the New Year's is now January 1st. And the belief is that they started calling them April Fools, meaning that they didn't get that that the new year hadn't just begun; it had been going on for a while. And there's some questions to its accuracy, because that was really in one country that happened in, and it's all of Europe pretty much celebrates the holiday. But it's a good story, so we're going to stick with it here. And but really, in general, when you think about building for your world, your cultures, what's a good reason to start a new year? Typically a year is the sun just going around the earth one time. And how you define where the new year begins, I think you could argue harvest in theory could be a new year, where the harvesting of the food to get you to the next harvest could be a new year. The end of winter, I think, is a legitimate one, which is kind of how we do it now at the beginning of winter, which I don't understand that. But, hey, that's what the Pope said. So what do you do? But, I could say, hey, if you go near the end of winter, once again, the spring equinox makes a lot of sense. The beginning of winter, the death itself could be the beginning of the new cycle. Depends on how a culture would view death. So I think there's lots of interesting things, but you have to kind of understand is what your culture that you're creating is. What are they doing? What are they symbolizing in the new year? Where it's very important to understand that timing. for a growing season, right? And I think that's why the spring it happens to be a lot too, because that's spring is when you plant. I'd imagine in the southern hemisphere, most of the cultures down there would have a flipped. If they're temperate, would have a flipped New Year because they would go off of their spring, which would be opposite if you move around your equator. Sorry, I have to cough.
That's fine, Jeff. Just cough. Cough at me. Cough at the audience. Don't you dare edit this commentary out.
I do have to apologize to the audience if you hear I'm still not over my sickness here. So
you honestly you sound almost normal.
I sound almost normal now.
I can tell the difference because I've had to listen to you.
You've had to listen to me so much
for years, yeah. And odds are the audience might be able to. And
I'm literally doing I have a throat lozenge and warm drink to try and soothe my throat as best as possible to get through.
Well, that's good. That's a good idea.
But yeah, but
you've been trying to put hot things in your throat to make sure.
Usually not that difficult, Now
I've heard the rumors.
But yeah, we'll leave those as rumors. But essentially, when you're world building, think about what's important to a culture, what in the significance of the solar traversal would be important, and if they don't care a lot about movements, they would probably still care about when you have to plant. Go ahead.
I was going to say that it doesn't necessarily have to be celestially influenced, but odds are in primitive cultures it's going to be. You take a look at all the but I always fall back on, okay, fine, how realistic do you want your world to be? It's your world. If you don't want them to be celestially focused, then you don't have to be but on Earth, and we always try to use Earth as an influence or at least as a guide. That's pretty much how it went. So the harvest point, I think, is a perfect focus for New Year as well. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. There's a million different ideas you could come up with as to why people would say out with the old and in with the new. It could be that new year. It might not be a year. It might be a new cycle or a new season. But I use that with big fat air quotes. That does it. Like maybe they don't bring in a new season until they conquer the next culture, or until they welcome in new people, or until a certain number of births occur, or you know what I'm saying? Like it could be any given thing, or maybe there is a celestial influence, but maybe it's something that's not annually.
Maybe it's lunar.
Right. Or it could be something that occurs every 2 to 3, 4 years, like we get, leap year, or like a harvest moon or blue moon or whatever. It's some special celestial thing that doesn't occur annually and doesn't necessarily mark the end of a year, but could be something significant and special to the culture. And subsequently they say, now it is new. Now we have entered the new.
Yeah, most definitely. One of the things I think about too, like if the gods are real and they walk the planet that you're world building on, the lead god might be like, hey, it's my birthday today. This is the day we celebrate. And this is, a new year for all of you. Is June 17th, because I say so. Or, let me pick it like September 4th, something that's definitely not even close to just a random day picked because that's my birthday.
And certainly it could also be terrestrially created. You could simply have an emperor that says, you know what, change in the calendar. And by the way, next week is going to be the new year because I have said so. It doesn't necessarily have to be a god. It could simply be political or socially influenced or created.
Most definitely. Yeah. So, but typically it's an anniversary. Usually, that's typically you're symbolizing something. And I agree with Michael. It does not have to be a length of a year, but when you start getting too short, like I said, a lunar, it becomes less meaningful because it happens so frequently. It'd probably be at least, what we consider a year or longer, or at least a half a year.
It could also be magic. It could be simply that every 3. It could be what do you call it? timed out. Like it could actually be timed out to the day that for some reason a magical occurrence occurs every 500 days, and that's what we call New Year. Every 500 days the sky turns bright pink at the apex of the moon, and we don't know why it happens, but it's beautiful and magical, and that's New Year's Day.
Well, I know it's like in the in Gardul, there's a nebula which I pretend like they can see. Because I want them to, and because they're closer to a nebula. So when it's a new moon, there's actually a lot of purple light that you can see in the sky where the nebula is.
Oh, look at that. So similar to what I was just saying.
So exactly what you're saying right there. So if like that only happened every so often, that could become an occurrence. Or going off of Michael's magic suggestion there, we've talked before about low or high magic, the idea where magic strengthens and weakens. So maybe the New Year is based off of the seasons of magic, the year of magic rather than the year of the sun. And that's the great thing in the fantasy world, is really you can make something up. Just understand that the point is, what are you, as a world builder, just what are you symbolizing? Make it up. Lie. Now, traditions. I did some research on traditions, and there'll be a link in the show notes to an article. What was it called? Let me scroll down here. 9 New Year's traditions from cultures around the world. It does not have to be these traditions, but I always like to look to see what cultures do, just as inspiration to sometimes give you a good idea. But there were some that I found very interesting.
I love tradition. I love learning about different traditions just because it's so funny when you like traditions that you have in your culture. No matter who's listening here, I guarantee you've got some traditions. They might be familial, or they might be societal rather. They might be religious, but odds are if you put some logical thought into them, they might be really, really silly for someone who has not grown up with those same traditions. So when you start looking at traditions from all over the planet, it's kind of cool. There are some traditions that I've discovered that are very silly and very weird, and I don't get it. Even after learning the story of their history and how they came to be. And there's other ones that are just wonderful and beautiful and thoughtful and,
Yeah, and sometimes they're crazy, and I forget what this was for. This is something Michael and I looked into before. I think this might have been a death rite where the culture would cut off a digit of their hand whenever they lost a child. And this is
I remember this one.
This is like a tribal society.
I think you might have found that one.
Yeah, I think it was a tribal society on Earth.
I think it was an Asian tribal society thing.
Oh, or Amazonian, maybe something like that, but something where it's very remote, and the people, it's a true like tribal situation, and so it's not uncommon. But yeah, it could be out in Indonesia somewhere too. That sounds like it could be familiar too. But they literally would cut off a finger. Now, you obviously don't want to do that for a New Year's celebration, or a society of fingerless people,
right?
Every 10 years,
every 10 years, it's rough, but it's going to be. It's going to be. But you know what? There's also something to be said for that. Well, it would have to be built in a way that once you get to a certain age, like because then, like if everybody that was born by the time they were 10 years old, they'd have no fingers.
Exactly. Yeah, and it'll be kind of boring. But yeah.
So maybe there's like some kind of event that triggers. All right, I'm just going off on a tangent now. Go ahead.
Stuck on the finger thing.
I am stuck on the finger thing.
Typical traditions, and a lot of people in the West will be familiar with the countdown. You might have heard this one if you live in America, where they like to count down to the stroke of midnight, the official beginning of the new year. Like we are now the last year of a decade. I'm going to say this, folks. We're in the last year of a decade, not the first year of a new decade. We're in the last year of a decade. This year,
because it's 2020.
20. So it goes 1 to 10. And so the 10 is the actual turnover. There's no year zero.
Is that true, or
in the Georgian calendar, because there's no year zero for AD, there's year 1. So you go 1 to 10 is 10 years.
So this is not actually the first year in a new decade.
No, and everyone always celebrates it based off of the zero and the first digit changing, but it's technically we're all off by a year. Like the year 2000 was not the end of the millennium. 2001 was the beginning of the new millennium. But I've been losing this argument to everyone because no one cares about what's right and wrong. They just care about 1999 is a much better song than, Party Like It's 2000 0, I guess. So I lost that argument.
2000.
But it really boils down to the fact that our calendar that we made up and we all agreed upon starts at year 1, not year 0. If it started at year 0, then people would be right. But there's no year 0. It's not a comic book origin.
Well, yeah, but don't we talk about I mean, the Gregorian calendar is, we're talking AD, Anno Domini, in the year of the Lord. So year 0, would that be the first year in the life of Christ?
No. 1 AD would be the year Christ was born.
So there isn't. So
if it's correct, if it's timed the way it's supposed. I'm sorry, that's the year he died, because it's after death, right?
No, it's Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, which includes which includes his time. It includes his time living.
Got you.
Which, but you have to figure that was. I mean, I'm sure this is something we can look up.
We were going to have to now.
We're going to have to now. But it would have to be, they created that after the fact, because, of course, in the time of Jesus, a lot of people believed he was a Messiah, but a lot of people did not. So it's not like they'd be like, okay, everybody start recording time and reset the calendar based on the existence of this man. When was he born? 30 years ago? 32 years ago? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And I said it was Pope Gregory who he created the Gregorian calendar in 1582.
Right.
So he was nowhere close. And they had used the Julian calendar before that, and they had adopted, I believe, the AD before. They had already decided and kind of guessed when year 1 was, but they're just guessing.
It's a common misconception. A lot of people think that AD means after death, but it actually means Anno Domini, which is Latin for in the year of our Lord.
Yep. So I'm one of those people.
Or it might be in the life of our Lord, maybe, but I believe it's in the year.
It's the year of our Lord, because I remember watching old historical movies, and it's like, in the year of our Lord, 1742.
Right.
That's the way it goes in movies, so it has to be real.
Of course, because everything in the movie and on internet is true.
Especially
everything in the movie and on internet. Yes, I know how to speak.
But another very popular worldwide thing is feasting.
Of course, everyone loves to eat.
Everyone loves to eat, and think about a lot of holidays are built around feast days,
and saints' days.
Well, saints' days are typically it's very connected. A feast day is typically for Saints' Day. You feast, and drinking. Shockingly, you'll be shocked to learn people drink as a tradition. And I don't know if that's always alcohol, but it's drinking has evolved. Champagne here in the States, and I'm sure in a few other places, it's still alcohol. Yep. Personally, I don't do that, but there are many people I know who do. They like to pop the cork, as they like to say, when the clock changes. A very interesting one I found was in Spain. They eat 12 grapes. 12.
Specifically, are they allowed to eat 13?
No. Do they cut
off a finger if you eat 13?
Yes, you lose a digit for
every grape.
Yeah, for every grape you go over 12. And they actually chop off limbs if you go under 12. So you better have your counting down. No, I'm making that up. But essentially, I believe it's...
I need a dozen grapes!
If I understand correctly, the reason, at least originally, was 1 for every stroke of the clock.
Yeah. 12, I think we need to do some research on the number 12.
Okay.
Maybe do a whole show just on the number 12. 12 months, 12 hours, 12 and a dozen, 12 apostles.
That's true. Yeah, there are lots of 12s.
Lots of 12s.
It might be a holy number. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, at that point, we're getting into numerology, but...
Well, not necessarily. Holy numbers aren't necessarily numerology. But they...
Well, I know, but if you go looking for the number 12, you're going to find it, is my point.
Of course, because that's the way math works.
Let's hope people work.
Burn effigies. People don't know, Michael's effigy gets burned every year in Panama.
It's true. The Panamanians do not like me, and I don't know why. I've been so kind
Well,
to
see,
Panama.
this is one of those things where you have to have some cultural understanding. It has nothing to do to be disrespectful to Michael. They
Sure
actually,
sounds like it.
the effigy resembles the old year. And to keep away demons, you burn up the old year when the new year starts. So they pick famous people. Television
I don't think I'm
personalities.
I don't think I'm
Oh,
famous
you are
enough.
so famous. You are the co-host of World Builders Anvil, the best known show this side of
Windsor? Maybe not even.
I'm not going to answer that question. I
I
can't.
bet the best known show this side of my street.
With anyone that has less downloads than us, but people have forgotten about. Okay.
I've been meaning to ask you, how are we doing? Like, we're still downloaded all over the world, right? But I mean, like,
Yeah.
How well?
I think about 7,000 a month, somewhere around there.
Like, do you think that's total downloads, or do you think that's individual
That's
like
total
per people?
downloads. I have no way. There's no way you can.
There's
count.
no way to figure out how many individual people listen to us.
No way. Yep.
Well, for all of you that are listening, I do thank you.
Mm-hmm. Very, very much. Now, weird types of New Year's holidays, and I shouldn't have said weird, but
different. We'll go with different
ways. And we mentioned some of these already. I think we mentioned all of these. Their anniversaries, their birthdays, or stuff like April Fool's Day, where if it changes, the people who are in the know will make fun of the people who don't know. That's why I believe that to some degree is true, because people in the know like to mock people who don't know. Even when something silly like that, like we arbitrarily changed what we call the New Year. It's still the same. We still say it's the same day, but we decided this day is the New Year instead of this day. And so now you're an idiot if you don't agree with us, which is, I think, the way people work. So I think things like that. But, you can have different reasons for your New Year's days. So have fun with it.
We all have different reasons for that.
And now, do you have anything else on New Year's before we take this in for a landing?
Well, I think if you're going to create a New Year's tradition, I think the big thing for me, and again, especially if we're talking primitive cultures, is that you consider how they approach the concept of either rebirth or renewal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and what that's about and how they measure it. And I would say, along with what Michael said, is, and if it's a long evolved and they've become much more sophisticated over time, don't be afraid to change it.
Yeah, and if it's like a hardcore warrior culture, they may not care as much about when the harvest restarts. That's for farmers. We're warriors. We're in charge.
They still want the farmers to make the food so that they can go out and fight. So.
No, they eat their enemies.
Touche.
Could be.
Could be. Here we come.
Cannibal warriors.
Each other sentient beings.
I think I just made another episode. I think we're going to create cannibal warrior culture. Are you down for this? You're laughing. I'm serious.
I'm down for this. I've done.
It doesn't have to be a big. It doesn't have to be a big culture. It doesn't have to be a prosperous and successful culture. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, cannibal warrior culture.
Mm-hmm. I do have one. So.
Damn it! All right. Well, then, is it fleshed out? But you see what I did there?
It's a flesh out. And it's a complete ripoff too. So it's awesome. It's the way it should be.
What's the name of this culture? Do I know this culture?
You would have met one of them, Lord Humongous.
I don't think so.
A famous Minotaur in my game, but he was essentially I forget what the new name is for them. It is essentially a derivative culture of Bedrachum, but they split off a long time ago, so that they've had deviant paths, and actually, the guys who follow the old ways are a lot more hardcore. We'll just put it to you that way.
Am I allowed to ask what it is a ripoff from, or do you not want to divulge
Vikings.
Which I would. Okay.
Vikings.
Yeah. Okay. Vikings were cannibalistic?
They were accused of cannibalism. There's some evidence to back it up. But I think it's more of a
could be a rumor.
I think it was more about
that their enemies created.
Yeah, the English definitely accused them of cannibalism. And there is some evidence, I believe, that there is. I think it had more to do with, like, if we defeat you in battle and you're pathetic, we'll eat you. But I think it's more of a threatening thing, and they probably just encourage people to think it. more than it probably actually happened.
That's ironic. It's actually kind of the opposite of a lot of cannibalistic warrior cultures that more go along with only going to eat the strong. Like if I defeat you,
and they might have been the strong. I don't know. That's sort of my take on it. That's the spin I took. It was like they ate the losers to say, and if they beat you, you're a loser, so they have to eat you.
Well, yeah, but on the flip side, like if they lost, that means they're not strong enough. So, but there's kind of a catch-22 in that one, huh?
Well, it depends. If you're taking the strength of the people you're eating, then yes. If you're doing
but if you beat them, that means you're stronger than them anyway. So
and they're weak, which means you have to eat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't you not want that weakness in you since they're weak?
Only if you think if you're absorbing their strength. If you think that you are belittling and terrorizing them, then yes, you do. And it's actually a very useful technique to terrorize people.
Oh yeah, we've seen that in wars all across the world, all across history.
Yeah. But yes. So eat your peoples, not the world building or real world task.
Eat your people.
That is not a task either way.
Oh my God. That was the quote of the day, definitely though. Don't forget to eat your people. That's like eat your vitamins or eat your vegetables.
That's what I was thinking was like take your vitamins.
To eat your vegetables, eat your people.
Well, when I was in college, I came up with the National Eviscerators Society, which the whole idea was, if vegetarians are eating plants because they think eating meat is bad, they're wrong. Humans are destroying Earth. So actually, plants are a form of life that's furthest from humans. So you should be less willing to eat them. You should eat meat, and preferably human meat, if you didn't want to be a bad person. I actually wrote a paper about that in college, and I got an A on it. So the teacher actually appreciated the humor in it. It was allowed to go that way. It was.
I was about to say you had a pretty understanding professor.
Yeah. Yes, I did. It was for a silly class. So
what was the class?
Self and Others is what they called it.
I've heard of Self. I think I took Self and Others. Was that as an untuck? Yeah, I took Self and Others.
And you got to do a journal. And I essentially told the teacher it was like none of her business. And I meant that. And she's like, you have to write something. So I just kind of did like little short, weird things. Like I had another, and actually the whole point of that was I ended up, I think I was praising Lord Hamanthus, King of Atlantis. And he was the plant king, a rightful ruler of Earth. It was sort of the ending of that one. It was like all little weird dark comedy things I kind of did in there, because that was just what interested me, and I had to write something, so I wrote weird stuff. And she really liked my journal, so
cool.
She's like, you can say whatever you want, but you have to write something. I'm like, okay.
That's such a funny, like, just now, it's like, obviously when I was like 18 years old, I didn't have a concept, but now it just sounds funny. Self and Others. Like, how weird of a name for a course is that?
Yeah. If I was older when I was in college, so to me, I was already at the point where I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like literally there was a guy who you had to do a book report on some book that helped you out. He did a children's book. And he actually gave a copy of it to everyone in the class. And the truth was,
it like the Giving Tree, or
I don't remember. It was really he owned a bookstore, and he had a whole bunch of extra copies of this book that wasn't selling. And so he used it as an excuse to dump off some books and to get a good grade, because it made for a good story. And good stories got good grades.
Well, hey, look, that's that's clever on him. Good on him. Yeah. That's marketing. That's great. Marketing.
Me and him, we got along pretty well in that class.
Do I know this person?
No, at least I don't think so, because I don't remember. I only knew him in that class. So
yeah.
He wasn't one of my weird friends.
I always forget that that's kind of where we crossed paths.
Well, we never met there. We were probably introduced from Matt as well.
We were, but no. You were definitely in school at the same time as me, because I remember you were big in drama.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely know there was at least one performance of yours that I went to because of Matt and Jim.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but I just it's so odd.
Yes. That's probably when I was a seaman first class.
Thought you were in the Army.
There was a play. I was a seaman first class.
Fair enough.
That was very tough rehearsals to get through. Let me tell you. Now, for the
because there's no part of you that's first class.
Exactly. Okay. Now for the world building task. Michael, can you guess without looking what I came up with here?
I'm gonna guess. Create a New Year's holiday.
Wow.
I wasn't looking.
Probably we've done so many episodes at this point.
There's a formula. There's a little bit of a formula.
There's a formula. I didn't realize that. I just thought you could read me now. And
yes, I can, but that's because I have spy cameras in your house.
Oh, creepy.
Don't worry, they're only where you hang out.
Very good.
Most of them in the bathroom. It's very unsettling.
I'm very sick to my stomach, and that would explain stuff.
Yes. We also know you're very sick in the head.
Now, for the real world task, this is going to be talking to people who want to change something about your life. If you really want to change something about your life, start today. Do one simple thing and do it every day for 60 days. Pair it up with something that you like to do. But if you want to improve yourself, do one thing and do it every day for 60 days.
Let me throw a little guidance on that. Mm-hmm. Pick what you want to change. So if that means you want to be a little more physically fit, do 100 push-ups every morning, or do like some squats or some,
or do one if you can't do any.
Right. And like, here's something that I read this great article. If you've ever, and I'm sure that a lot of people that listen are down on game theory and know a lot about our love for games and gaming culture. The idea of gamification, if you're not familiar with it, and I don't know, I think we've done show episodes on this subject before, but we certainly should if we haven't. The concept of gamification is simply approach your life, your tasks, and what you want to accomplish like a video game or role-playing game, tabletop game. In that, give yourself attainable, measurable goals and tasks to get to a certain thing. So there was this guy I was reading about who he never understood, like he was not physically fit. He was overweight and, couldn't do a push-up. And no one ever told him, well, you don't have to do a push-up. You can lean against a wall at an angle so that you're not doing a full-fledged push-up. You're pushing against the wall.
If you're standing up, it's a lot less. Yep.
Or you can do a push-up, but instead of having your feet touch the ground, have your knees touch the ground. You are modifying the exercise to make an attainable goal and work towards what would then be the real deal push-up. And that is a concept of gamification. And he's what he realizes what he's doing is leveling up his body. And he started approaching physical fitness as role-playing game. I'm going to level up my body. If I do 100 push-ups every morning for 10 weeks, I get to level 1. And if I do 10 push-ups and then 20 squats for 20 weeks after that, then I get to level 2. And he created a system to level himself up. And that's how he created a measurable means to show his progress. It's one thing to be able to do those tasks every day, but it's another thing to be able to add to those tasks and do more and more each day and make it more difficult and show yourself, oh, wow, I can do now what I could not do a year ago.
Most definitely. Yep.
So gamification is really great in the goal and task-oriented method of improving your life.
Excellent. But you'll read books about habits in 21 days or 30 days too. Don't be fooled. Our brains don't work that good. It takes about 60 days.
Yeah.
And once you get 60 days, it will become second nature. When you don't have to think about the action to start, that's when it's actually become an actual real habit. It's not 21 days. It's not 30 days. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. But
2
60
months.
days, I think, is more the real number. So
2 months every day. Small thing. Doesn't have to be huge. It can be small. You know what? I've just started, and now that you say this, I'm gonna start making it actionable. I'm going to hold it up for you here. And I shared it a little on our closed Facebook group, which if you're not part of the closed Facebook group, it's www. I'm actually about to say garduel.com. It's not that. What is it? The Facebook group is
facebook.com/groups/Undercroft.
That's Undercroft, if you did not hear him correctly, because I barely heard him, and I'm like right here. So what I'm holding up for Jeff to see and that you guys cannot see is 300 more writing prompts. And I talked about this in the closed Facebook group. I bought this book just the other day, and in it are 300 writing prompts. And every prompt is a single page. And actually, that's not true. I thought it was a single page. Some of them are half a page. So on one page, there's 2 writing prompts. And what I started one the other, or rather, I started and completed one the other day. And what I'd like to do is complete one every day so that I can start writing more than I have been writing in a while. So what I will start doing one every day in an effort to join in with you guys for this 60-day challenge, or I don't know if I want to call it a challenge. 60-day encouragement.
Challenge. Call it a challenge.
Call it
challenge.
Let's
call it a challenge.
Let's not call it a challenge. Let's call it an encouraging change. Let's say if it's something you want, then you go for it for the next 60 days.
And Jeff will call it a challenge.
But I feel like challenge is too confrontational and also makes it sound like it's
Everyone
difficult.
knows the word of the internet now.
It doesn't need to be a challenge.
Here's a 60-day challenge to walk.
Doesn't need to be a challenge.
It shouldn't be a challenge. It should be a joy.
I like that. Your 60-day joy.
Okay, folks, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.